Oh, we can't stop them. Here we go. Right, since George Osborne's budget speech just over a week ago, there's been a lot of talk and argument over the coalition's plans for welfare reform. It's now clear that whatever else gets cut in the coming spending round, the huge state welfare budget faces a big hit. So what does that mean for people who receive benefits because they're unable to work due to ill health? Giles reports.
Here's a question for you. How many of the people walking past me are disabled? Don't bother answering. It's a trick question because what you might think of disability and what the system accepts as disability may be two very different things.
Disability is not necessarily visible. There are many, many disabilities that people will not be aware of as they're walking down the street. So people's perceptions of disability are going to be skewed by the awareness that they have.
Longevity and general health have increased tremendously over the last generation. We now have the longest living, healthiest generation that Britain has probably ever seen, and yet we somehow have managed to end up with an enormous number of people who are disabled and incapable of work, and that surely can't be right.
So what are the benefits we're talking about? Well, one of them is disability living allowance. It's paid to people regardless of their wealth or changes in their financial circumstances. It's literally to help pay with the costs of living with a disability. And it covers costs of mobility and care. And there are sort of three levels of need for those two components. But the most important factor is it's paid to people even if they work.
Disability living allowance is an absolutely essential benefit for disabled people. It helps to meet the extra costs and it helps disabled people work. So if reforms are made to that benefit, which stop people from being able to work, we're not going to be cutting the expenditure, we're going to be stopping disabled people from being able to get to work.
The other is incapacity benefit, a totally different beast altogether. It is there as an earnings replacement for people who are too sick or disabled to work. Now, it was claimable up until October 2008, when the then government, Labour government, changed it to employment support allowance, which was assessed by the Work Capability Assessment.
It's a controversial test. People know that it's not worked efficiently anyway. And of those people that appeal their original decisions, 40% of those decisions are overturned at appeal. This is a shocking statistic.
We seem to have created a situation in which having to look for work, as it's often put off, being forced to look for work, seems to be a kind of punishment rather than a liberation. The idea is that instead of regarding work as the normal condition of adult life, that unless you are severely disabled or genuinely incapable of work, physically or mentally incapable, you should not be self-supporting, you should not be self-determining. This is an absurd situation.
Both these benefits are now being reformed. So what's the problem? Well, both the Labour government and the new coalition government want to move or migrate everyone who's on incapacity benefit via that controversial assessment onto employment support allowance. And they want to do it fairly quickly. They want, by October of this year, to have assessments running at the level of 10,000 a week.
With the speed and the pace of all these reassessments that's going to be done, it's definitely inevitable that some people are going to fall through that net. And our concern will be, what about the welfare of those particular disabled people?
That was Giles reporting. Margot James is still with us. Is it the coalition's position that the large number of people on incapacity benefit are faking it?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. But I do think that we believe that just as with the last government, who started this process of reform a couple of years ago, that a lot of people go on to incapacity benefits perhaps too easily because the focus is on what they can't do rather than what they can do. And if you focus people's minds on what work is possible for them, then you do find that a lot of people who are currently on incapacity benefits, whilst they might not be able to do every type of job, they can do some work, and that, that will be enriching to them if they get that opportunity.
But is the primary motivation, is it to save money?
I think it's both to save money and also to make sure that the system is fair, that it's giving to people who are in real need, but not allowing people who really can work to enter a life where they drift, really, because it's not you can't have a great standard of living on benefits.
It's a minefield, though, isn't it? Because on the one hand, you've got a lot of people who need incapacity benefit and deserve to get it, but you have, the evidence suggests, from the last government as well as this one, a lot of people on it who are not deserving of it, and it's become a lifestyle. It is very difficult to identify one versus the other.
Well, I think that's why we're going to oblige everybody to go through a new test from next year. I think that's the reason we're going to do that, so that the people who are in genuine need have the opportunity to prove that and remain on the benefits they need.
You can't afford to get it wrong and make a mistake,
No,
can you?
You are absolutely right about that, which is why, you know, in the clip you played, the lady was complaining about the number of people who had their decisions overturned on appeal. Well, I think that's quite a good thing. It shows that the appeal process is working. Because one of the problems is that with some disabilities, they affect people more on some days than others. So you can go for your test and be deemed fit to do almost anything one day, but another day you might not be able to, and that's a sensitive matter.
We'll leave it there, but we'll be back.
We will. Now, if you find yourself in the centre of government,